we're going to take reader questions. So these are reader questions we put out to Facebook and Twitter. I'm going to read some of them. I should do this ahead of time, but it's actually kind of cool to just randomly select them.
Uh-oh.
And
don't know what you're going to get.
This is, And so this person.
So if you have questions, you can send them to what?
Oh,
Fake
right.
Gordon Ma-ung?
Yeah, so
on Twitter.
Well, I think we have the Full Nerd podcast at PCWorld.com, and I think if our IT department has also created it, we should also have the Full Nerd at PC World. You send a question there, we'll try to answer it, or you can send us a question to that email address saying, "How come you didn't talk about AMD? You guys are NVIDIA fanboys. You suck." But so that's the place to send us those "you suck" comments. Yeah, actually,
I got those on my 1080 review, despite at the very end saying, "Hey, don't buy anything. Wait to see what AMD does."
We should just
you're an NVIDIA fanboy.
Yeah,
we should have an email just for people to say, "Hey, you suck."
Yeah, it'd be "you suck" at PCWorld.com. Just to say you suck because of this reason.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Okay, reader question. I should have marked it. I want to say, okay, actual question. An actual question. Oh, actually, this is a good one.
Here we go. A good one.
All right, this is a good one.
I'm ready.
Waiting.
Oh, okay. This is from Mr. Pips, actually from last time. But upgrading a monitor, is it time to go with 4K, 1440, or is 1080 still fine?
Well, Brad thinks G-Sync.
Brad or Elena, any opinions on what you... Now, you were actually thinking about going to 1440. Brad, of course, is living the high life at 4K with G-Sync. But
I honestly think that has to do with what you're using it for, personally.
Well, for gaming.
For gaming, yeah. I think it's going to be a while before we see a single GPU card that will, do 4K at, a locked 60, as Brad was saying earlier, 60 or above. So if that's what you're going for, then I would wait personally.
Yeah.
Just because also there's still not great SLI support or Crossfire support,
right.
multi-GPU support in a lot of games still. For me personally, I would go with 1440 just because I do obviously writing and editing. I've been finding that 1080p isn't cutting it for that anymore in terms of putting things side by side or like being able to reference different windows. And then for gaming in general, I thought, maybe I would convert a little more to the dark side. Yes,
okay.
It is the dark side, not the light side.
There is actually no light side, by the way. If anybody has figured that out, it's just simply the dark side for everything. But okay, Brad, what are your opinions? Would you if you had a 1080p monitor, would you upgrade to 1440 or 4K for gaming?
Is this for gaming or is this for general use?
Well, I guess
doesn't really matter.
I don't really believe there is such thing as a 100% gamer unless you're living in one of those gaming houses and you're on a reality TV show.
Streamer house.
So, streamer house. I think most people, you got to do real work, right? So assuming, it's probably 50-50, 60, 60% work or 40% gaming.
I think that 4K has come down tremendously in price. But between what you'd have to spend on a graphics card and there's still a little bit of a price premium there, there are benefits there, but I don't think it's worth it for the majority of people yet. To me, the sweet spot is 1440 because you get just enough space on your monitor when you want to be productive. You can arrange several things. It's gaming-wise, it's a big jump over 1080p. Like, me personally, I noticed the jump from 1080 to 1440 much more so than 1440 to 4K. I think the jump from 1080 to 1440 is a huge, you get a lot for your money there, and I think that's the sweet spot. All that being said, I still personally think 1080p is just fine. I can work just fine in 1080p. I can game just fine in 1080p. You can crank settings. You can buy lower price graphics cards, as we were saying. So there's a lot of value for staying at 1080p, especially if you want to upgrade to FreeSync or G-Sync and spend a little extra on that. But if I was buying a new setup today, I'd probably buy 1440, but I wouldn't feel ashamed about buying 1080.
Yeah, 1440 is pretty cheap now, right? I mean, they're like $250, $300. What about you, Adam? You got any opinions on it?
I love the idea of a 4K panel where I can edit video 1:1, 1920 by 1080, 1:1 pixel and not lose any editing space. But I haven't seen any monitors that are like, oh, wow, this is good for, good color reproduction or whatever for video. So, I think 1440 is fine.
Yeah, it seems like that's the universal winner here,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, at least for now.
So 1440 for you. Okay. So,
But if you're gaming, again, you got to step up. If you're going to do 1440, you got to step up to a 970 class card,
At
say,
least, right.
until we see what's coming with the AMD and NVIDIA down the line. So there are costs involved there. So really, look at what you actually use it for and what you're going to need.
Okay. This other question, this comes from, I don't know if everybody's going to recognize his name, but this comes from Greg Viederman, yes, the Veed. He had a question. I run two GTX 980 Ti's in SLI and will be upgrading to two GTX 1080s in SLI. My question, should I wait for aftermarket big coolers or go with reference coolers, the Founders Edition, because I'm hearing of thermal issues on high overclocks and, of course, throttling is that's what he's kind of reading some places. And for more information to help you answer this, I game on a high frame rate 4K 40-inch television.
Dang.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? He's been doing this for years, by the way. So, I mean, he used to use a 1080p television. He'd play games on a 1080p, and I would say you're crazy. But, I mean, because it's just it's a 40-inch television right in your face.
All right.
You got any opinions, Brad?
So waiting for aftermarket is the question?
Right. So aftermarket or buy reference cooler.
I mean, the reference cooler's not bad. It's blower style, so it'll blow all that crap out of the back of your PC, which is always nice. But it does, it runs, if you're pushing it full load, it can get up to 80 degrees, maybe a little bit extra. And they have the back plates on them again, which was an issue with 980 and SLI with the reference edition, because they came with back plates and it was causing thermal issues in SLI. They say they've redesigned it on the GTX 1080, and you can take a little plate off the back. But
You take the whole plate off if you run SLI then?
yeah, you can take a portion of the back plate off.
Huh. So is what's that back plate for then, besides charging you more money?
Cooling. It helps with cooling. And a single back plates look badass.
Yeah,
If you look in
cool.
the side of your window, it looks better to see a back plate than open circuits.
Right. Okay. So I mean, I'm just wondering if that was like a heat sink. I mean, I always thought it was kind of odd to me that having the back plate, taking it off somehow helped the cooling. But I guess in SLI, if the card's sitting on top of it, it overheats.
Yes. Yeah, that's the issue. It's the airflow. That was the issue before. I haven't personally tested, and I haven't seen any GTX 1080 SLI tests yet. So who knows how much of an improvement that really is over the 980 reference edition, which was an issue.
Right.
So I would recommend at this point waiting to see at least some Founders Edition SLI results. Or if you're going for that, you're going that balls out anyway, I would definitely wait for a custom cooling myself, because they run quieter, they run cooler. I mean, if you're going to be spending, what is that, $1,400 in cards, get the best cards you can get.
Right. And I think he basically has a buddy that he sells the cards to at a great discount, enough to pay for one of them. So then he plays for the second
Nice.
one.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I would wait, but SLI always seems to run better to me with custom cards than it does with the reference design, because the reference design never have the flashiest best coolers, because they got to give their partners room to play. So
they do get loud too. I mean, the Titan X cards, you run that for a while, man, those suckers I always thought they get pretty loud.
He was talking about overclocks as well, and I was able to get it, depending on where the GPU boost went, I was able to get it between 1900 and just over 2 gigahertz on air. But that is with cranking the fan speed. I was able to just hit 200 plus 200 megahertz. And that got really, really loud. So if you're planning on overclocking, I would definitely wait for custom versions.
Right, or go full water cooling on it. That might be the
Yeah.
way to do it. That'd be beautiful, actually.
EK Waterblocks just announced that they have GTX 1080 ready to roll when the GTX 1080 does.
Wow.
Nice.
Nice.
Next question comes from Ash Raman. Is there a way? Well, I'm going to read this. Is there a way to increase dedicated graphic memory? Answer, please. Huh. I can take that, I think. If I understand it, I think he's saying, is there a way to... So if he wants to add more memory for dedicated in an IGP setup, you basically, if you're in a desktop you just add more memory, right? Because IGP uses your main memory, so you add more memory. If you're in a laptop where it has modules, you can swap the modules out for higher clock, which helps performance, graphics performance, and you can also put in larger ones, so then you can make the frame buffer larger. And if it's a laptop where it's basically soldered into the system, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do, right?
Cry.
For what's
Yeah.
worth, if you're doing an AMD APU system, if you spend a little bit of extra money to get higher clocks, it'll increase performance overall too.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing people forget is, I mean, memory bandwidth. Video cards love memory bandwidth, right? So you throw in higher clock SODIMMs, you get more performance, right? Although it does seem kind of funny. It's like you're doing all that to get performance out of an IGP. So Skull Canyon is different though. 580 is pretty good. Sorry, Skull Canyon. No, we're not talking about you. Dang.
Any more questions?
There is another
I-
question. I've
I got one. I
Brad's-
got one.
Brad's
that was
got
on
one.
Facebook.
Oh, go.
Hot off
Ooh.
the Facebook.
I liked this guy's question earlier. He was asking, don't you only really need a water cooling system if you're running a big giant tower with high-end CPUs and GPUs?
No.
Wait, I don't think I
Yeah.
even understand the question. Was he saying that you
He's-
only need that? Like you shouldn't even consider air, or if
He's saying that you would only use a water cooling setup in a big
Okay.
tower with high-end graphics cards and processors.
so it's like either that or nothing.
yeah, he's saying,
Okay,
is that the
got it.
case? That's his
Oh,
perception
okay.
of it.
Would you only use water cooling in a big ass custom tower?
I took it as, what else would you use it for? So on and so forth.
Oh, well, you can get them in, water cooling in a small form factor box is nice too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Because
w-
it's so tight in there, you actually really need that more so than a big one, I would say, because you naturally have more airflow in a big tower than you would in a small mini ITX box.
Yeah, I think of that Digital Storm Bolt 3, right?
Yeah.
Is that the one? Yeah,
That was beautiful. Because that sort of was a pretty large small form factor
True,
box,
true.
but water cooling is especially, well, if we're talking about custom water cooling is pretty awesome because
Yeah.
it really is quiet.
It's pretty too.
It's pretty, and then you can overclock the hell out of the CPU and GPU, and man, it just makes no noise. Right?
It's amazing, and I'm never going to do it. I'm all about those closed loop coolers these days.
Yeah, CLCs are nice. But, I kind of wish there was a way to do CLC for multiple pieces of hardware that, didn't have the complexity, in the maintenance of a custom water cooler. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have both your GPUs and your CPU cooled on a CLC, but then you've got all these RADs going everywhere,
I believe at CES I saw something just like that from EVGA that would cool both your processor as well as up to 4 graphics cards.
Was it an aftermarket kit that you added to the system?
Yes, an aftermarket closed loop cooler kit. You just plug and play basically.
Oh, nice.
God, how do you do that and account for just the hundreds of different sizes of cases and where all the cards go and where the coolers get mounted? I don't know how you. Was it? I mean, a true CLC, or could you change the hose length?
I didn't get to play with it that much.
Oh,
They were
okay.
just using it to show off their new 980 cards and their new case and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, for the true lower noise but water cooled, you could do a CLC CPU and then do a prefab CLC video card too, I guess, and that's just one or two coolers, two rads you got to mount.
Yeah, man, that's what I was thinking when I was reading this guy's thing. I mean, for one, I think water cooling's better, like you guys are saying, in a small form factor system because the airflow is so restrictive. And like that Origin Chronos that you reviewed a couple weeks back, that's like the size of an Xbox. That wouldn't exist without closed loop cooling.
Yeah, and then on the
And-
CPU side, it was nice.
And I know people who have switched to closed loop coolers just because they're quieter, or they can be quieter depending on the radiator noise. You can get some big fans and it'd be next to silent.
Yeah. Oh wait, okay, wait. I actually found a question.
All right, let's have this be the last one.
This will be the last question. This is from James Thames. Is there any difference between Xeon chips and their i5, i7 counterparts? I do a lot of computer animation, and I mostly run into Xeon chips in workstations I use. Towards the lower end of the performance spectrum, the Xeon underperforms and costs a little more. Is the performance price gap any better for the newer models? Since I'm
This is all you, Gordon. I have no
Yeah,
experience
it's
with
all you.
Xeons.
So there is a difference. The Xeons have more expensive features. You can, of course, a lot of Xeons you can run 2 processors. Intel disables that functionality in i7 chips. Even at the highest end, they don't let you do that because they want you to buy Xeon if you use multiple processors. Xeons also support ECC RAM. Also, a lot of times they can support more exotic types of memory to get you to huge amounts of memory. But it looks like you're looking at a workstation application, so you're not looking at, you're probably not running a 2P box. You're not going to be running, 10 terabytes of RAM. You could probably get by on an i7 in a single processor box. The question is whether the advantage the i7 gives you is you can run the clocks up higher. If it's an unlocked i7, like if you do a Haswell E, you can take that 8-core part, overclock it to 4 gigahertz, and that gives you generally better performance in applications that aren't that heavily multi-threaded. If you're looking at a Xeon, they actually sell Xeons for really cheap. You get a 10-core Xeon. I was looking at the prices of it. 10-core Xeon Broadwell E. I'm not saying I'm talking about a particular part that's coming out, but 10-core Broadwell E for like $600-$700, right? Unless I read ARC wrong, but that's a pretty good price. So you're looking at 10 cores versus 8 cores, but those Xeons generally are locked parts, so you can't overclock it. So you're looking at pretty low clock speeds, like 2.4, sub 3. Some applications, you're going to be giving up a lot of performance over like a Haswell E with a nice little overclock. You take a Haswell E with a CLC to 4 gigahertz, that's like nothing. You could do that all day. So 4 gigahertz, 8 core versus 2.4 gigahertz, 10 core. There's definitely some things where that i7 will give you more. So I think honestly, you could make a case for doing the i7. So, but yeah, generally the main difference is more features that Intel locks into the Xeon so they can charge you more. But interestingly, it's cheaper for some Xeon parts. Intel's price list gets a little weird since they don't have this thing called competition from anybody, which would be nice. Intel's only real competition right now, sadly, is from within Intel. So that's what I have to say about that. And we are actually out of time. We're not too bad. We finished
not
under
too
an
bad.
hour.
Yeah.
So this is The Full Nerd, Episode 1, with guest Brad Charkis.
Adios.
He's not the guest. I just screwed that up.
Co-host.
With my co-host, Brad Charkis, and our special guest, Elena Yee. Thank you for bringing this cool Nux. I am Gordon Ung, and behind the camera, Anna Patrick Murray gets to say bye and point to you.
Hey, see ya.
And hopefully we'll see you in a couple weeks where we have some new hardware to discuss and actual performance numbers. We can get into actual performance numbers of new hardware in a couple weeks.
Sweet.
You should definitely tune in for that one.
See you in a couple weeks.